Did you know that Esther is one of the only books in the Bible that doesn't mention God? One woman, one decision, an entire nation saved. She risked her life to speak to the king and changed history forever. If I perish, I perish. These are the words of a queen who stood against death for her people. This is the story of Esther the Queen. Join me as I uncover the story of Esther and the great commission God entrusted to her. Esther, chapter 1 to chapter 10. Long ago, in the majestic city of Susa, within the powerful Persian Empire, there lived a young Jewish girl named Esther. Orphaned as a child, she was raised by her wise and loving cousin, Mordecai. Though she had little, Esther carried a beauty and grace that set her apart, and a heart full of faith. At that time, King Xerxes ruled over Persia. One day, during a lavish banquet, he summoned his queen, Vashti, to appear before the nobles. But she refused. The king, fuming, humiliated, decided she would be queen no more. A search began to find a new queen. Among those chosen was Esther, though she kept her Jewish identity a secret, just as Mordecai advised. King Xerxes was captivated by her beauty and kindness. He placed the royal crown upon her head, and Esther became Queen of Persia. Not long after, Mordecai overheard a plot to kill the king. He quickly told Esther, who warned the king in secret. The conspirators were caught, and the king's life was saved. Mordecai's loyalty was written down in the royal record, but he received no reward. Not yet. Soon, a powerful man named Haman rose high in the king's court. He demanded honor and worship, but Mordecai refused to bow. Haman's pride turned to rage. When he learned Mordecai was Jewish, he hatched a wicked plan, not just against one man, but against all Jews in the empire. With cunning words, Haman convinced the king to issue a decree. On a set day, all Jews, young and old, would be destroyed. The people were terrified, and Mordecai tore his robes and cried out in mourning. Mordecai sent word to Esther, "You must go to the king, plead for your people." But Esther hesitated. No one could approach the king uninvited. To do so was to risk death. Then came Mordecai's powerful words, "Who knows but that you were made queen for such a time as this?" Esther, knowing fully well that if she approached the king without being summoned, risks execution. Yet if she remained silent, she would be complicit in the genocide of her people. The weight of this decision rested heavily on her shoulders. In the face of such danger, Esther chose to take a stand. She gathered her courage and devised a plan to save her people. Esther knew what she must do. She called for her people to fast and pray. She also did the same with her maidservants. On the third day, Esther put on her royal robes and entered the king's court uninvited. King Xerxes surprised, then smiling as he extends the golden scepter. The king welcomed her. "What is your request, my queen?" Esther replied, "Let the king and Haman come to a banquet I've prepared." The king gave an order, and the king went to the banquet that Queen Esther had prepared. Haman was happy and in a good mood after the banquet, but then he saw Mordecai at the entrance of the gate, who showed him no sign of respect as he passes by. Haman was furious and devised a plan to kill Mordecai. That night the king couldn't sleep. He gave order for the records of the empire to be brought and read to him. They read a part about the account of how Mordecai saved the king's life. The king asked, "How have we honored and rewarded Mordecai for this?" "Nothing has been done for him," the servants answered. Just then Haman arrived, hoping to ask the king to have Mordecai hanged. But before he could speak, the king said to him, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Thinking the king meant him, Haman replied, "Let him wear the king's robe, ride the king's horse, and be led through the city streets with royal praise." Then the king declared, "Excellent, do all that for Mordecai the Jew." Haman, though embarrassed, do everything the king has instructed him to do. And so the man Haman hated the most was honored by the king himself. The same day, at the second banquet, the moment arrived. Esther stood, her voice trembling but clear. "If I have found favor, O king, spare my life and the lives of my people. We are to be destroyed." "Who would dare do this?" the king asked. Esther answered, "This wicked man, Haman." The king's rage boiled over. Haman was taken away and punished on the very gallows he had built for Mordecai. The king gave Mordecai a high position, and together he and Esther wrote a new decree. The Jews could defend themselves. When the day came, the Jews fought bravely and triumphed. From that day forward, the Jews celebrated their victory with joy and thanksgiving. They called it Purim, a time to remember how God turned sorrow into gladness. The story of Queen Esther is rich with powerful lessons, both spiritual and practical. Here are the key lessons that can be drawn from the story. 1. Courage in the face of fear. Esther risked her life to approach the king uninvited. This teaches us to do what's right, even when it's dangerous or uncomfortable. True courage is not the absence of fear, but doing the right thing in spite of it. 2. The power of wisdom and patience. Esther didn't rush into the king's presence. She prayed, fasted, and strategically planned 2 banquets before revealing Haman's plot. Wisdom, timing, and discernment are just as important as bravery. 3. You have a purpose for such a time as this. Mordecai reminds Esther that her position wasn't random. She was queen for a reason. Your skills, platform, and influence were given to you for a reason. Don't underestimate the impact you can have. 4. Pride leads to destruction. Haman's downfall was caused by his own pride and hatred. Arrogance, ego, and plotting evil against others always backfire. Finally, advocacy can save lives. Esther spoke up for her people when no one else could. Her voice changed the outcome. Sometimes you are the only one who can speak up. Use your voice for justice, even when it's costly. Esther's story teaches us that courage, faith, and standing up for what's right can change the course of history. No matter who you are or where you come from, you may be exactly where you are for such a time as this. Thanks for watching. If you had enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for another interesting faith-filled content.